So year 7, whenever we do practical work, safety first, safety goggles on your eyeballs all the time to make sure that you're working safely. What you can see on the table here is a selection of different types of glassware. This one is called a beaker, and you can see that different beakers have got slightly different sizes, and the beaker is not really for measuring, it's more for putting in liquids and mixing stuff. So for example, I might get a measuring cylinder, this is for measuring, and measure out some water. And whenever you measure out the water, it's important to put it flat and then read at eye level. But what I've got here is 17 milliliters or centimeters cubed of water. I can pour it in, and then I can add a different liquid, something like iodine solution. And then what I can do is to use a stirring rod to stir them. So beakers are used a lot for mixing equipment as opposed to measuring precisely. To measure precisely a volume, you want to use a measuring cylinder. And again, these come in different sizes, and you're going to get to use these when we're in school. Sometimes you want to mix things rather than in a beaker, in this, which is called a conical flask. Very similar in terms of the use of a beaker. And again, just to remind you, this piece of kit here is a stirring rod. It's glass and it's used for stirring. By contrast, what we've got is this one, and what we've got here is a thermometer. Thermometers are there to record the temperature, not for stirring. But if I wanted to take the temperature of this mixture, I'd make sure that the bulb was inside the mixture. I would just spin it around just to distribute any heat, and then I'd read off the thermometer just here. But the thermometer is used to measure temperature. The stirring rod is for stirring. Beakers are frequently used for mixing things together, and the measuring cylinder is there for measuring volumes of fluids. Now, sometimes I want to mix things which might be a liquid and a water. So again, if I measure out some water, and I read it off at eye level, what I've got is 25 centimeters cubed of water. That's accurate. Then what I would use is something like this. This is called a spatula, and a spatula helps me to add a particular chemical substance, and then again I'd use the stirring rod to mix those things together. So beakers are used for mixing, stirring rods are for stirring, thermometer for measuring temperature, spatula for transferring solids. And if I was really good, what I would do is I would measure the mass of copper sulfate. I'd measure the mass using one of these, which you've seen in the lab. And this is a balance. And the balance gives you a measurement of mass in grams. So this is for measuring mass. The measuring cylinders measure volume. You've already used one of these. Stop clock measures time. Another thing I want to show you is this piece of equipment, which is called a pestle and mortar. And what we would do here is we would use this to grind it up. You might have seen something similar in cooking programs on TV, or even in your own kitchen. So pestle and mortar are for crushing and mixing tissue. For example, we might crush up a leaf for an experiment on photosynthesis. We've also got here different pieces of glassware, and what we've got are test tubes, not very clean test tubes. This is called a test tube rack. That holds it in place. This is called a boiling tube, and boiling tubes are used to boil things, as the name suggests, or to heat substances up. Sometimes we want to mix things together and we use one of these. This is called a bung, and the bung or stopper can go in the top, and we can turn back and forth to mix things within a boiling tube or a test tube. Again, these come in different sizes. So here we've got a bung or a stopper for a test tube. If I wanted to heat something up, then I would probably use one of these. This is called a clamp and a boss, and we can very easily make sure that the boiling tube is held into position like so. And the clamp stand and the boss, okay, could then be used to heat the fluid which is contained within here. Also, for heating things up, we might use this kind of setup. What I've got here is a gauze, I have a tripod, and I keep them on what's called a heat-proof mat. So I normally place that on the top. This is called an evaporating dish, and the evaporating dish would be filled up with a substance that I'd want to heat. And then I'd use one of these, this is called a Bunsen burner, and set the Bunsen burner alight and place it just underneath here. Again, you're going to get to use all of this equipment when we come back in. So if I show you how to light the Bunsen burner next time.